recording now. If you haven't seen information on where to access the recording later, you can contact me later. My contact information was in the poster that we sent out. And so a final point of order for the people here in the room is that we'll have fika afterwards. So please stay and enjoy fika. Unfortunately, if you're participating online, you will miss our fika. So without further ado, I give the floor to Victor. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you. And I'm sorry. Topic is very important for me, for us, and I believe it will be at least interesting for you, because we would like to deliver a message to international community about what's going on in Ukraine. Used to be we are familiar because you are watching TV, reading mass media information, but not too much attention paid to situation with environmental situation in Ukraine. So I will start with my slide, which I already used before because it's initial slide. So at the outset of Russian Federation military aggression in 2014, the housing sector, industrial facilities, life support systems and infrastructures, agricultural lands and complexes, as well as the natural environment in Ukraine was impacted by powerful military destruction in eastern Ukraine. But since full-scale military invasion of Ukraine by Russian Federation, which began on February 24 last year, and was and still is especially devastating. So result of this unprovoked war is the death of 1,000 people, and it's really true. Destroyed residential infrastructure. Some cities totally destroyed. Ruined economy and colossal destructions of the environment. Late February 2022, the troops of Russian Federation invaded the territory of Ukraine and actually partly occupied Kyiv, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and the Mykolaiv region. Probably you remember that they informed about 3 days and get Kyiv, but it's not happened. Intense hostilities as well as missile attacks on settlements and infrastructure facilities throughout the entire territory of Ukraine caused devastating and sometimes catastrophic consequences for the environment. And the impact on the environment consists of the pollution and destructions of natural and human-made ecosystems. And I would say that scale, significance, and duration of the consequences of such an impact depends on the type and strength of the impact factors. And the grouping of similar consequences of the impact makes it possible to apply the same type of methodology for assessment of the conditions, damages, and rehabilitation measures of the disrupted or destructed environment. In many cases, such consequences are detrimental to human life, animal life, and plant life, and considered as an ecocide. So in this presentation, I would like to outline the main types of environmental damages and risk caused by the war in Ukraine. And actually, all incidents of impact should be registered, fixed. And since very beginning, environmental inspections of Ukraine put efforts in registration of all incidents and prepared monthly digest reports, which were published. But regretfully or no, in July 2022, we saw last publication about such a report. And I know why it's happened. Because we were very open. We informed about what kind of infrastructure or object were deteriorated, destructed, or no. And our enemy used this information to coordinate, to make more targeted their efforts. So we changed our approach. Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine elaborated special platform, Eco-Zagroza. And in this Eco-Zagroza is represent all cases which were informed by insiders throughout Ukraine. And after checking this information was included in this database. It's open, but as well we may only see the name or title of incidents and probably to know where it's happened, in which locations, but not exactly. Apart of this, some international organizations put efforts, and one of the remarkable platform was developed, but platform Eco-Dozor was developed by ZOE International Network. It's non-governmental organizations which is located in Switzerland and is working in cooperation with OSCE, Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, with United Nations Environmental Program, with other non-governmental organizations like REACH initiative, humanitarian initiative. And they registered as well all incidents, but using official and unofficial sources of information and put on the map. So we may see type of these incidents. They are related to industry and critical infrastructure, damage of or disruptions to industries, damage of or disruption of settlements, and so on, so on, so on. I put references, so in the case of interest, you will easily find these resources. And they accumulated informations, and by July of this year, they reported about 2,197 incidents in different areas. And almost the same information, almost the same number we may see on the site of Eco-Zagroza done by Ministry of Environmental Protection. It doesn't mean that this information is absolutely correct, but this information provides us with impression about scale and type of damages. But we actually do not see what kind of damages to environment is behind of this information. So if you look at the map of Ukraine, you may see that not only on the areas where heavy hostilities are carrying out now, but in many other parts of Ukraine targeted by missiles attack and so on. So on the left picture, you may see damage or disruptions to human settlements. On the right side, you may see the same, but to industrial facilities. As regards to type of damages, my colleague, French attorney Maud Sarlieu, who is closely cooperating with General Prosecutor's Office in Ukraine, and she is attorney, helping to provide support, juridical support to our specialists. She proposed to divide environmental damages into four categories. Damages caused by deliberate targeting, the same caused by indirectly, and the same caused by directly or indirectly by prohibited weapons, and damages not connected to the conflict. But frankly speaking, if you look after these categories, what are inside of these, you may see damages to nuclear power plants, to oil and gas facilities, to hydroelectric power plants. But damages and consequences are different. So speaking in terms of damages, we should look another approach to have categories which can be to which we may apply with the same methodology of assessment and rehabilitations approaches. So in reality, any type of environmental damages can be grouped in two huge groups. It's pollution of environment, it's deterioration or destructions of environment. But all these cases can be seen in different way. So I try to present most general categories of environmental damages and risk. First of all, we are thinking about air pollution, because any case of damages resulted in air pollution. And pollution of air resulted from products formed as a result of ammunition explosion, from products of burning, and from combustion products of oil and any other products. And as regards to numbers, I don't like numbers because they are very huge, and frankly speaking, I don't understand what is behind of it, because we have to compare with something which is visible for us. But these numbers, fuel, fires, emission from this, we see almost 5,000 tons of emissions entered into air. We understand that atmospheric air is very dynamic structured, a very dynamic system, and this pollution are spread over and goes behind borders, causing transboundary pollution and so on. But in any case, it's huge impact on the environment. Another category we may consider as a pollution of the environment by the products of the explosion of the ordnances, remnants of such ordnance and destroyed military equipment, with most profound impact on air, soil, and water bodies. As well, yeah, I put some numbers and put some pictures. Most of illustrations which I provide, it's my pictures. But regretfully, I did not visit all sites and didn't participate in all investigations. That's why I use it from different sources, including mass media and social network. Another category relates to pollution by destructions of heavy industries. I will not comment this case because I didn't participate in any of these cases. It's far away from Kyiv and in area which are prohibited for access. But it's definitely there. We have such kind of damages of environment. Another category, it relates to formation of a significant amount of solid waste as a result of the destructions of residential infrastructure. And this solid waste can be used in recycling processes later, because it's destroyed houses with different materials, or like burnt cars, which we observed near Irpin. This crater was resulted from missile attack, and this is playground exactly in downtown of Kyiv, in park named after Shevchenko. And you may see how deep it's, because kids were playing when I made this picture, but it was already rehabilitated, and we have native kids playground. The same huge amount of solid wastes originated from destruction of industrial facilities. As well, I will not comment because it's clear and it's obviously. And this is a real picture from our part of Ukraine, I mean Kyiv region. I put in a separate category consequences and impact of damaged oil depots. At least 3 of them you may observe before and after missile attacks. It's Aistra in Chernihiv, Kalinivka oil depot in the Kyiv region, and Krechki oil depot in as well in Kyiv region. But when I looked at reports of environmental inspectorates for the first months of interventions, it's March of 2022, I found few pages of registered incident related to destructions of oil depot. So enemy targeted first of all for energy sources for our economy, for our military forces, and for human use. But what is going on? It results in a huge amount of emissions of burning products into air. It may result in pollution of soils, and it may relate to pollution of surface and underground water. And estimations of burned products, I just put on this slide, it's Krechki oil depot, which was attacked 3 times in February and March of sorry, I put 23, it's 22 again. So could you imagine more than 13,000 tons of oil products were burned? And definitely a lot of huge amount of products were emitted in the air. Another type of damages relates to disruptions to and destructions of natural and anthropogenic landscape resulted from shelling, hostilities, operations of heavy military equipment, constructions of trenches and fortifications. And this very badly impressive picture, you may see, it's agricultural land, but you see it's covered with craters resulted from shelling. And I'm thinking, what can we do to estimate the situation, and how can we rehabilitate this area and put again into agricultural use? It would be very costly, and it will take time and a lot of resources. Another category of damages relates to fires in natural and man-made systems. Again, I put some numbers which relates only to fires which took place in natural protected areas. And you may see it's this area in some cases larger than that area of some European countries. Apart of this, almost third part of territory of Ukraine is still keep mines or unexploded ordnances. And we should put a lot of efforts to clean up this territory. In this case, it's not accessible. Now I would like to talk to damages which caused to water resources, to water objects. So it caused direct and indirect water pollution resulted from military activities. Another type, destructions of wastewater facilities, which results in pollution of water bodies by specific organic substances. In report of the environmental inspectorates, I met few incidents which happened in eastern Ukraine, in eastern part of Ukraine, where wastewater treatment facilities were totally destroyed. And I badly understand what is going on there and how people can use and what they should do in this situation. We have quite specific cases, and as far as Ukrainians are not very scared. We have pollution of surface body with oil, which resulted from destructions of oil depot. And this pollution caused by penetrations of oils through underground water. But what we found, we many times visited these sites and observed and monitoring. But once upon a time we came and found these 4 huge containers. So locals, which are very clever guys, understood that, I think, or they know, were knew about quite large amount of oil, because they made shells, extracted water, put on these containers, and after sedimentation, just used oil products for I don't know what. But it's like enterprises. Can you understand? And they did a great job because they remediate, they helped to clean environment. So pollution. Another type of damages results to destroying of hydraulic facilities. For example, dams. And such cases, we have few cases because it's very specific cases. But we know that few dams were destroyed in eastern Ukraine. And for example, this example of quite small. It's dam on the river Volcha near Donetsk. And the reservoir was not so large. The square of the mirror of this water reservoir was approximately 2 square kilometers. And the results of this explosion of this dam was not so devastating because only few households were flooded. But it can be much worse and much larger. In March of 2022, dam which divide river Irpin and Kyiv reservoir was blown up by Ukrainian forces because it was the only way to go to Kyiv. It's the only way to Kyiv for Russian troops. But it's a specific situations. River Irpin is running to Dnipro River, but after construction of Kyiv hydropower station, huge reservoir, water reservoir, had water level higher than river Irpin was entering. That's why it was special constructions of pumping systems and dam. And in this case, when dam was blown up, water from Kyiv reservoir entered into valley of Irpin. And it's covered pretty large territory. And okay, I will not comment this because next case is more badly impressive, let's say. Probably you know this information. On 5th of June, United Nations introduced the Day of Environment, and to some extent we celebrate or just inform populations. On 7th of June, World Health Organization introduced the Day, World Food Safety Day. This year, in between, on 6th of June, United Nations celebrated Russian Language Day. And especially in this day, on 6th of June, the dam of Kakhovka hydroelectric power station was blown up, and a powerful flow of water from Kakhovka reservoir rushed down to Dnieper River towards the Black Sea. And it was a huge disaster because volume of water in Kakhovka reservoir was as much as, was more than 18 cubic kilometers. And territory of this reservoir, it's quite huge. Over 2,155 square kilometers. Length of reservoir is approximately 250 or 240 kilometers. So it's huge amount of water. And you are familiar with this case because many information was spread out through mass media and so on. So ecological consequences and risks caused by the destructions of the Kakhovka hydropower plant was the territories, for the territories located above and below of the dam are different. And environmental damages in both cases, detrimental, multidimensional, and complex by nature. So let's see what's happened downstream. Frankly speaking, I was going to avoid talking about human victims, about death of human and so on, but this is a very specific case. So after flooding a large territory located on the left bank of Dnipro River, near Kakhovka Dam, many towns were flooded totally, and regretfully, many people were killed. And these pictures already present situation which in 10 days, it was 19th of June of 2023, so 2 weeks after. I know people, I have some insiders, and they informed about very terrific, very brutal situations. So many people died, but we don't know exact names because this is part of under control of Russian Federations. Right bank of Dnipro River was not suffered in such case because it's a western part, it's higher than left bank. So we suffered as well because some cities and towns, Kherson city was partly flooded and many towns, many villages as well. But consequences were not so tragic like on the left bank. So Hola Pristan, it's 13th of June, water was covering and actually destroying houses. And probably you have seen some houses which were just swimming with water in the directions to the Black Sea. I visited Kherson on 10th of June, so 4 days after this disaster. And these pictures from the Kherson city. But city already, water left this part. What are consequences? We may talk about rising groundwater, which in some cases becomes a critical factor affecting residential buildings, communal and industrial infrastructure. So underground water went up due to flooding this territory. Mass deaths of pets were registered. Critical direct impact on the state of the region's biodiversity. And irrigated agriculture in the south of Ukraine was practically paralyzed. For each of these cases, I may deliver special presentations with illustrations, estimations, and more information. But it's not, it's not possible to cover this right now. So what's happened above the dam? Above the dam, situation was quite different. I don't remember any case about deaths of people, but sharp decrease of the volume of water caused shelving and dehydrations of the reservoir bed and weathering of bottom sediments. Significant changes in the coastline, formation of new water bodies and new dry territory. It caused critical impact on the water intake for human and industrial needs, make it impossible for entire area. It means that in villages, in coastal region, in coastal villages, water from wells just disappeared. apart of this, degrees, but it's happened because degrees of the level of ground and underground water in the area. So water supply for human needs, for husbandry, for agriculture, for other parts of agriculture was paralyzed. I'm very painfully consider all this information, all these facts, because I was born in that region. And on these maps, I just show it where my village is. So I just make it bigger. I zoom it, the map, and on the right-hand picture, you may see small peninsula, and on the cape of this peninsula is located my village. So water disappeared. We had in wells which have as deep as 8 or 10 meters, disappeared totally. But we have industrial wells which provided water to entire village, and this wells was 37 meters. Now these wells doesn't work as well. So huge impact on underground water caused this situation. This is dynamic near my village. What was going on? Before, even not before, but on 7th of June, everything was with water, but on June 16, you may see dry net areas, and after 20th of June, my village stopped to be peninsula. Only from one side, from southern side, we have lake which still exists. And dehydration has become a major factor in the destructions of the reservoirs' aquatic ecosystems and has caused critical threats to the existence of rich freshwater biodiversity. Irrigated agriculture in the territories under influence of reservoir will cease to be an important sector of the economy. Recreational ecosystem services of the reservoir and its coastal areas have been lost for indefinite time period. And fishing as a sector of the local economy has actually lost. The fish stocks of the reservoir aquatic systems have been destroyed. Spawning grounds destroyed. Many cases registered right after blown up of Kakhovka Dam and drainage of this area. I put some informations provided by Department of Agriculture of our ministry, but as well it's not easy to get this information because left bank of Dnipro River of Kakhovka Reservoir is still under. It's still targeted by Russian troops located on the left bank, right part of this area. So fishery doesn't exist anymore in such value as it was before. Probably it will be recovered because Dnipro River is running there. It's not huge water bodies as it was before. So probably we will see what will be there. And this picture demonstrates situation of the bed of the sea of the Kakhovka Reservoir as of 1st of July this year. So you may see it looks like desert, probably just picture in the mid demonstrates some plants growing. But in the month, at the beginning of August, my colleague sent me this picture. I'm impressed, I would say. I'm impressed because I don't know how seeds get to this territory. And this example demonstrates very strong power of natural system. It seems to me that we will have newly formed wetland systems. on this bet. How can it be used in the future? It depends on situation with war. Because on the one hand of the reservoir, we control area and our military forces, on the other side, on the other bank, Russian military forces located. And frankly, I'm coming to the end. So today is 546 day of Russian invasion in Ukraine. And regretfully, the war is continuing. People still die, and economy is collapsing, and the environment is destroying. What we do and what we try to do, to extent possible, we try to make inventory of damages. And I demonstrated different approaches and different governmental and non-governmental systems in completion of this task. We try to make environmental state assessment of the targeted environmental objects on territories. We try to arrange monitoring of pollution and dynamics. We are doing assessment, economic assessment of damages, and environmental, not ecological assessment of damages. It's a little bit different issues. And of course, we are thinking about remediation and rehabilitations program development for this area. And probably we will be in charge to implement these programs. And we are thinking about pilot projects in some very specific, very simple sites, just to demonstrate, just to utilize, just to apply with technology and get some experience in this. And all this, during all these stages, we try to collect evidences of military actions impact on the environment, because everything is needed to apply for compensations for these damages. And we hope that sometimes it should happen. Maybe I will not see this, but I believe that it's happened. And probably this last my slide. I just would like to demonstrate that Ukrainians are hardy and indomitable people. This is small plantations of potato which already were planted on the territory of dried Kakhovka reservoir. It's happened near Nikopol. I even don't know from which side it came, but it's really true. I don't know, people already harvested these potatoes or no, but it's great example that demonstrates that we are surviving, we are stable, and we are trying to do the best in these situations. As a summary of my presentations, I would like to say just keep the peace. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Victor, for that very informative and comprehensive presentation. Now, let's start with some questions, and we'll start from the room here. If anyone has any questions. On Zoom, I'm keeping an eye on Zoom, and I'll take those questions a little bit later, but in sort of the order in which they come. So on Zoom, you can also formulate your questions. I'm keeping an eye on it, but we'll start with the people who are here in person. So does anyone have a question for Victor? Yes, Eva. Sorry, oh, yes, of course.
Yes, thank you, Victor, for this very informative presentation. I wonder, as I know that maybe the environmental monitoring facilities or systems in Ukraine has not maybe been fully functioning even before the war, but what kind of environmental monitoring is actually going on today? What can you actually monitor?
it was heavy task for my country. And before the war, Ministry of Environmental Protection and some other agencies put a lot of efforts to renovate and to develop and implement modern system of monitoring. So we had quite, maybe not so well developed like in European countries, but still we had network of hydrometeorological stations, and we were receiving permanently information about this. We had network of monitoring stations on rivers. We had monitoring of biodiversity, but related to protected areas. And this process was not so, periodic was not so short like for other kind. And we have quite well-developed system of air monitoring. Actually, in any city, there is such monitoring stations. Kyiv has its own, including non-governmental organizations which established stations to monitor quality of air. But still, it was quite weak, and actually we didn't have unique platform which combine all this data, which would be available for any customers with this information. But we tried to do. Currently, we lost many meteorological stations, in particular on the territory which are under occupation. It doesn't work, so we don't have information about this. And of course, it's war. So many men left and now are fighting. So we lost many human resources which were involved in such activities. And in the area which preliminary was occupied by Russian troops, like Kyiv region, Chernihiv region, Sumy region. So system is, I wouldn't say broken, but it doesn't function at needed level. At the same time, we still have monitoring efforts, let's say, of National Environmental Inspectorate. We have network of this inspectorate located in different regions. And I was surprised that, for example, in Sumy, in Kharkiv, which were targeted very, very, very badly, they are functioning. So we have some information, but for the areas which are under occupations, we mainly try to use satellite data, at least to understand what's going on. And most of pictures which used for research and for decision making, we use from satellite database.
Thank you. Here. Oh. Maybe you could say your name.
Petr Boshkov, professor in biochemistry. I'm not surprised by what you have been showing because I'm I am following events every 20 minutes, let's say. Is there any roadmap for the estimation of losses and for charging those who are responsible for these losses? I'm talking now about your contacts with politicians, with decision makers, not with the United Nations, because that is a useless organization. Okay?
Hmm? It's not easy. It would not be easy answer. Since very beginning, General Prosecutor's Office involved in this process, and there is a special department of Environmental Crimes. Actually, it's this department which we are cooperating with. They collected a huge amount of information, probably the most informations from different damages and so on and so on. And they tried to collect this information. But at any steps, we have problems. For example, we are cooperating with assessment of damages of oil depot. We, frankly speaking, we don't have resources to make analysis which would be validated and accepted at international courts. We did But not all our laboratories are certified by international standards. And at this moment, we are lacking resources even for consumables to make relevant analysis. Service of Security of Ukraine, Служба безпеки України, as well is involved in this process, collecting the information. And each step, and we have a lot. We have many consultants and experts from international community, mainly from European Union. I mentioned Maud Serliu, because with many of them I met during our missions and during our meetings. They help to, so we have information about damages, but the point is that we have to prove that these damages are connected with this invader, with aggressor, and we have to prove that it was done intentionally, because this is a very sensitive issue for providing information for Court of Justice. And in this part, legislation in Ukraine is not corresponds to current deeds. And Ukraine even doesn't party to even doesn't sign the Roma Statute, so it should be done. So it's in process, but it's very difficult issue, let's say. And as regards to United Nations, to some extent they're helpful. We participated in some trainings dedicated to this assessment of damaged sites. It was really useful, but not United Nations provided. They arranged a project, and it was done at the very specific and very professional sites in Switzerland with involvement and UK specialists and so on. So I wouldn't say that they absolutely useless. Definitely.
We are recording this, right? Because I want to approach some politicians. Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Yeah.
So I saw that Stina had a question. Welcome. Stina, maybe you can just say who you are.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. My name is Stina Powell, and I'm the head of department where Brian works. And I'm very grateful that you came, and I'm grateful for the collaboration you have with Brian. I know that he's deeply engaged in this work. I'm thinking about, first, one feels very sort of useless and passive and bad listening to this and not knowing what to do. And we're at the university, and we have our competences and our skills here and our resources. And individuals, as you show, they make a difference. They grow their potatoes in that field. That wasn't a field, it was just rocks. And but this is also requires is long-term relationships and long-term work. And I'm just thinking what it is that you think that is needed in the long term from your perspective now, from building and taking care of these environmental damages and problems that's going to go on for generations, probably some of them, and how you can see that collaboration with, for example, SLU could help and support your work and the collaboration between Sweden and Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. I consider, actually, this is results of collaboration, which already started. And frankly speaking, we need support, and we need support at least in two areas. Yesterday and the day before this, yesterday we discussed different issues, and I feel myself that we are talking about very understandable issues, and we are talking We are using the same language. You understand it? So our professional level corresponds to the level of our colleagues. But even in this, I feel that they more experienced because they have more developed, more progressive research technologies, which we are lacking. So on one hand, we definitely did capacity, improvement of capacity, which is going on right now. But on the other hand, actually, I don't have on my department laboratory, which would be, which should correspond to needs of educational process of my university. So this is another problem, another issue. And we try to, we are looking ways for improving this situation. And I suppose that we will find, we will improve this technical capacity, let's say. And we see already in which direction we can move in our cooperations. And frankly speaking, I'm very glad that we met such people like Brian, like other colleagues, which on one hand were very supportive, and on the other hand, they understand real needs in solving such problems. So we are looking forward quite optimistically.
Okay, thank you. Now there's a question from a participant on Zoom, so I'll read it. So what do you think about the proposal by the Ukrainian Nature Conservation Group not to restore the Kakhovka Dam, but to create a nature reserve of the, I guess you would say in English, Great Meadow, the Veliki Lug? So maybe you can give some context to that question.
Yeah, it's Ukrainian Environment Support Protecting Group is very active, and they combined very strong and very good professionals in the area. And to some extent, we are cooperating. Olena participating in some activities. Other students are participating in these activities. What I'm thinking, few weeks ago, Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine approved already decision about restorations of Kakhovka Dam. Another point of view, not to do anything which will relate to the similar activities and will lead to establish a new water reservoir. I'm not ready to answer these questions. What is bad, what is good? We have to take into account lots of factors. First of all, we have to think that in this region, 3 million, even more than 3 million people are living. So they need jobs, they need to develop sectors of economy. And if we're thinking about some industrial facilities which are very strongly were developed in this part of Ukraine, Nikopol, Kryvyi Rih has ArcelorMittal metallurgic plant, which is second by productivity after Azovstal, which was totally destroyed. And on one hand, they lost access to water because these industrial facilities used a lot of Dnipro or Kakhovka reservoir water. Somebody is telling that, so what? This metallurgic plant belongs to oligarchs. They private enterprises. It's their problem. On one hand, it looks like, yes, it's their problem. But on another hand, thousands of people local are working on these plants. And from social point of view, they are getting support for their life. But this is one part. Another part, if we will change economy, what should be economy for this region, which provides value and relevant income for these populations? Agriculture. Before, southern part of Ukraine, Kherson region, used water of Kakhovka reservoir and Dnipro for irrigation. That's agriculture was totally supported by irrigation. And you remember Crimean Channel, we supported supplied water to Crimea. we had some problems with this, but anyway, now Crimea doesn't have this source of water supply. So we have to carefully think about everything. We have to make model of prognosing what will go on this, on the bed of this Kakhovka Reservoir, because we don't know how many springs are there, but we know that they are exactly there. And so it's too early to make a decision. But I'm happy that discussions are taking place at this moment, because earlier or later we will come to wise decision, I believe.
And just a little context for this question, can you say a few words? What was, before there was the reservoir, what was there historically?
I was born when reservoir already filled in, because it's finished in 1956 and I was born in 1957. But even in this case, I remember that 2 streets with residential buildings with households went to underwater because the reservoir was coming. What was before? Before was, we say, plavny. It's something like special wetlands ecosystems which are typical for estuary of European rivers, like Dnipro River, which is below Kherson city. But this area was used for agriculture and in particular for husbandry, because there were a lot of pasture, yes. There were a lot of lake, and people explain me, older people explain it, that they didn't have needs in fish or so on, because lake were overcrowded with these resources and so on. I don't know what to say. Probably we will see next year what was many years ago on the bed of this reservoir. And many villages which were located on the territory were moved and flooded.
Okay.
Some forests as well were cut and flooded. And now we see the rest of these trees after many years of covering with water.
Okay, thank you. There's another question in the chat, but I'll just see if there's anyone here in the room that has a question. Otherwise, I'll go think about your questions then, and I'll go here. So the next question, could growing grain or biomass, not for food, but for biofuel, so could growing grains or biomass for biofuel help clean destroyed lands? And this, and then there's a comment, this could be a way to support both farmers and produce a very important transition fuel without competing with food production. And then thank you for a very interesting presentation showing the severe, horrific, and tragic effects not communicated in daily media. So would on contaminated land, would it be an option to grow biofuel, as both to produce fuel and to help rehabilitate the land?
We've been thinking about this, but probably we didn't find pilot site where it can be implemented, but really it could be useful. But on another hand, what kind of pollution? It depends on what kind of pollution. If it's polluted by oil or other organic pollutants, it would be very good approach. If we are dealing with heavy metals, so we should think about what to do with this biomass, because we might use as a carbon source for burning or so on, but we have to think what will be after that, where heavy metals will go on after. But we consider this. Now I couldn't say anything specifically, but this is definitely a wise approach, at least for some cases.
Okay. Is there any question here in the room? Or participants on Zoom, please feel free to pose your questions. Yes, oh, sorry, Cecilia, I didn't see you. Okay.
My name is Cecilia Wallenström, and I work more or less here at the university, or mainly retired. But I just want to ask a short question about wildlife. What are the estimates of wildlife losses due to the war? Because it must be enormous. But we talked about the monitoring before that Eva asked about. But
You remember I put some items of consequences of Kakhovka Dam, and there was one of these consequences related to threats or impact on biodiversity and so on. And I told this item should be explained in presentations like this one, because still there are some information about what was going on. The impact was terrible, I would say. First of all, animals which were kept as a element of husbandry on left bank of Gola Pristan, Oleshki, Kochany, other villages. Most of them died. Zoo in Nova Kakhovka comprised 300 of animals. According to information which we got, most of these animals were killed by flooding. The only ducks, lebedyak, so only birds, water birds, were escaped this difficult fate. And as far as territory was flooded, so many biotopes, many habitats were destroyed. So we don't know what may happen after that. But this is one part. Second part is forest. It's fires in forest and steppe systems. We still observe using satellite system permanently fires in our natural reserves. Island Jarl Hatch National Park, Biosphere, Black Sea Biosphere Reserve. It means that, coming back to Jarl Hatch, there was a special populations of deer and other animals. But on the islands now is located troop of Russian soldiers. And we saw fires. It means that most probably everything was killed and destroyed. So we don't have enough information to make clear conclusions, but definitely we are aware about terrible impact on this component of ecosystem.
Okay. I have one question, but I just want to see if anyone here has a question.
Comments?
I've been visiting Ukraine a lot before this big invasion and before war 2014. And the environmental issues were always very, very acute, basically, in Ukraine. I do believe that it might be the case when the war will have good consequences.
I understand in which...
Yes, I'm thinking about social psychological attitude to the environment, to the nature. And I do hope that it will improve after the fascistic Russia is defeated. That is my strong impression. Because we need to learn.
Yeah.
Right?
We already have negotiated. Actually, we've been approached, our colleagues from Germany, with this type of proposal for cooperations to consider environmental cautiousness, environmental attitudes, environmental relations, yes. And we are thinking about it. But this is difficult questions. Looking at social media, social network, I found a lot of information about volunteers who helped to save, to escape pets, home animals from flooded areas. But at the same time, in comments, I saw a lot of very angry comments accusing these people that you are thinking about dogs and people are dying here. You have to people, first of all, save and protect. So it's war changed in different ways of attitude and understanding, because it depends on very real, very specific situation in which people are now. But I know that many people who tried to escape flooding, they kept their home pets with them.
Eva.
Sorry, I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm Eva Stefansson. I'm working as an advisor to Swedish Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA. And I have a question regarding, I mean, Ukraine has been, the economy of Ukraine before the war was, and it still is, very dependent on exporting agriculture products. What about the quality or the monitoring of the quality of that kind of those products? Is there possibilities for those to be controlled, or is there still an international demand on what kind of quality of the products that is being exported?
You are talking about exporting of products of agriculture. Frankly speaking, I don't know. We have special agency which is responsible for control on the quality of products. But first of all, which are coming to Ukraine. As regards to exports, actually export controlled not only our government, but as well as customers of this. And this case currently is very deep situations, very bad situation, because you know that we almost lost opportunity to export using our harbors on the Black Sea, because they are either blocked, either destroyed. After grain agreement, Russia stopped participate in this grain agreement that started to destroy our storages and our harbor facilities. So our business tried to export through railways to Western countries and so on. But frankly speaking, I don't know about how it's controlled. I know that there is a pretty strong regulations, and I would say that we have quite strong legal acts and so on. The problem is in enforcement of provisions of such documents. But as far as cooperation with Western countries are getting more stronger, and we more depend on Western countries. Definitely it relates to all sectors of our life, including sector of control for the quality of products.
I have just a quick question. If you could say a few words. There's a lot of territory that has been mined and a lot of agricultural land that has been mined and that cannot be used because of the mines. Can you say a few words about the work to demine and how that's going?
I'm afraid no. I don't have special information. Just information which are coming from the mass media and social networks. But most, it's going on. It's going on because times to times we are hearing explosion in the area of Kiev, and we are worrying because because we are thinking about attack and so on. But at the same time, we are informed that these are results of demining activities in Kyiv region. So we have special service, the state emergency service, and they are dealing with it. And they have map, and they put all information on this. But we as well know exactly that southern part of Ukraine mined exclusively tried many months. And that's why we are, our fighting with Russian is so slowly, our attack so slow because territory is totally mined. And I'm not sure that it will be easy task. It will take a lot of years. And I believe that some territories we will lost for agricultural and other purposes for many years. Even after the occupation of these territories. My colleague, Yevhen, today told me that territory which was mined during First World War near Verden is still not demined, it's closed because many years passed away since that time.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. So if there are not any more questions, I think we can conclude that we have fika outside. Again, I want to thank our guest, Victor, for your presentation. It was, you know, it's a grim topic, a brutal topic, but I think it's very important that we hear it. And I think it's very important that we hear it from Ukrainian experts. So I very much appreciate that you could hold this talk today. Hopefully, this is your first visit to SLU, but hopefully it's not your last. And hopefully it's not your last talk at SLU. So anyway, thank you, Victor.
And thank you for your patience.